Okay.
Welcome, friends. Today there's a talk on the sun and the planets. This talk is a continuation from the talk on the Earth chain of globes given this past winter. So we'll begin with a quick review of the Earth chain of globes. The Earth, like everything in nature, is sevenfold. Theosophy considers the Earth an entity and not just a mass of gross matter. So being an entity of a septenary nature, there are said to be 6 other companion globes to the Earth chain, 1 for each of the 7 principles. Both HPB and her adept teachers said that the globes of our chain are in co-ordination with each other, but not in consubstantiality. The whole 7 globes constitutes one single mass or great globe, and they are said to all interpenetrate each other. And this is what was meant when it was said that they are not in consubstantiality. They are not identical in substance or essence, but they are in co-ordination, meaning even though they are of different substances, they are still united in one mass and interblended with each other. The globes are closely and intimately bound together by subtle currents and forces. And it is along these subtle currents that the life elements pass from globe to globe. And this is a diagram of the 7 globes that they each are on a specific plane of consciousness. The other 6 globes of the Earth can be thought of as different phases of consciousness from the phase we currently occupy. This illustration may help us understand it. If, for example, our consciousness could be altered and we could function in another state of matter, remaining in the same place but not able to see the state of matter we have left, we could be in one of the other phases of consciousness in which one of the 6 other globes occupies. Then the globe corresponding to the plane we're on would be visible to us, but not the globe we just left. Just as when we dream, the dream state is objective to us, so there is a state of matter which corresponds to each level of consciousness. Each of the globes is used by evolutionary law for the development of 7 races and of senses, faculties, and powers appropriate to that state of matter, the experience of the whole 7 globes being needed to make a perfect development. When other worlds are mentioned, the occultist does not locate these spheres either inside or outside of our Earth, for their location is nowhere in the space known to and conceived by the profane. According to Mr. Judge, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and the other visible planets are all 4th plane globes of distinct planetary masses. And for that reason, they are visible to us, but their companion 6 centers of energy and consciousness are invisible to us, just like the other 6 companion globes of the Earth. And this is where we shall pick up on the discussion of the other planets as written about in Theosophical literature, and then the sun. Mr. Judge has an article from the Path magazine entitled Mars and Mercury, and in it is discussed a portion of esoteric Buddhism where Mr. A.P. Sinnett mistakenly alluded to Mars and Mercury being a part of the Earth chain. HPB corrected this notion by clarifying that neither Mars nor Mercury belong to our chain. They are, along with the other planets, their own septenary units in the great host of chains of our system, and all are as visible as their upper globes are invisible. Furthermore, the masters have said, firstly, that none of the other globes of the Earth chain are visible from its surface, which we just spoke about. And secondly, that various planets are visible in the sky to us because they are also 4th plane planets, representing to our sight their own septenary chains. Thirdly, returning to the Earth, the 6 companion globes of the Earth are united with it in one mass, but differ from it as to class of substance. And fourthly, the entire Theosophical philosophy is one of correspondences, and these correspondences should be viewed in every part. The philosophy is consistent throughout. What does this mean? This means that every planet, considered for the moment as an individual, is to be analyzed in the same way as a single human being might be analyzed, subject to the same laws and in the same ways. In man's sevenfold constitution, his body represents the earth in her septenary chain. And since he cannot see objectively any of his 6 other principles, it follows that we cannot see the 6 other companion globes of the earth or any of the other planets. If this be correct, then Mars and Mercury are also 4th plane globes. HPB and the Masters have stated that Mars is in a state of obscuration at the present time. And this is because in that chain of development, either the egos have finished their 4th round, and as such, the beings are not visible, while the globe still remains visible, or potentially because the 4th round has not yet commenced on Mars, except in respect to the planet itself as a place of habitation. Remember, the energies of the egos in that chain call forth the globe for habitation, and then the beings come to inhabit it. If the former is the case, that the 4th round has ended on Mars, then the egos will have passed on to the next globe of that chain, and that 5th globe is invisible from the surface of Mars, as our next globe is invisible from our own surface. The same may be said for Mercury, except in respect to obscuration, since the information revealed about it declares that it is beginning to get out of the obscuration caused by the absence of egos. It is also stated on the authority of the Masters that no companion planets, that is, no upper globes of any chain in the solar system, can be seen. And this matches what has been said earlier, that one has to partake of a different center and level of consciousness to perceive them. They also say that the relation borne by Mars and Mercury to the Earth will not be spoken of or explained by them. And this is because they have said, when asked about it, "You are putting me questions pertaining to the highest initiation. I can only give a general view, but I dare not, nor will I enter upon details." So this is a mystery to be discovered in higher planes of consciousness and development. HPB states that both bees and ants have an evolutionary origin that is separate from the main terrestrial animal evolution of the Earth, and that these particular species are linked to other planets, though it is also stated that these are esoteric planetary mysteries. Venus in particular is linked with advanced spiritual evolution in Theosophy. HPB mentions Venus as the origin of the Kumaras, advanced spiritual beings who came to Earth to aid in human evolution during the 3rd root race. The Kumaras, sometimes referred to as Lords of Flame or Sons of Mind, played a crucial role in the awakening of human self-consciousness. In early Lemurian times, the human forms, though fully developed physically, lacked self-consciousness, moral awareness, and individualized thought. They were, in Blavatsky's words, human in form, but not in mind. The Kumaras descended from higher spiritual planes, symbolically from Venus or the higher globes of our chain, and lit the spark of mind in a portion of the human race. This is described as the descent of the Manasaputras, the sons of mind, into the more advanced human forms, giving rise to self-conscious thinking beings. The Kumaras brought the spark of mind and self-awareness to early humanity, and this marks the true birth of the human individuality. It also represents the sacrifice of those higher beings who chose to aid humanity's spiritual evolution. Some later theosophical interpretations have suggested that certain highly organized forms of life, like bees, are influenced by the consciousnesses on Venus, or maybe remnants of other planetary waves of evolution. And this idea was picked up on and expanded by later theosophical writers. But ever the practical theosophist, Mr. Judge has said it's not necessary for us to know the relations between Mars, Mercury, and the Earth especially, nor to know whether Mars and Mercury are in any particular state compared to the Earth. All that is necessary is to know that these planets belong to their own chains. Oops. Next, we'll address the moon, its mystery and fate. The brilliance and nearness of the moon and her many recurring changes all aid in fixing the attention of science. Modern and ancient science alike have watched the night's great light as she performs her journey around us. Nations regulated themselves in their acts, religious and commercial, by the moon. Feast days of the church are fixed more by the lunar than the solar calendar, for all the movable feasts depend on the moon, including Easter. From the earliest times, the calendar, ruled in fact by the moon's motion, has been of immense interest to mankind. Periodically, rulers of the earth try to reform the calendar of days and months when it periodically has gotten out of order. The present arrangement of months, with 28, 29, 30, and 31 days, was invented to make a calendar which would last some centuries before another one would be needed. Because the moon's motion will not give 12 regular months, but 12 regular ones and one small one of about 6 days. In Roman times, Caesar ordered a reformation of the calendar by attempting to use the sun, but in time it fell into great confusion. Pope Gregory XIII directed 10 days to be suppressed, and then found that the Julian calendar had an error which would amount to 3 days in 400 years. The Gregorian year now prevails, except in Russia, but still the greater number of men and the greater number of festivals depends upon the moon and her motion. Modern Theosophy, which seeks to unite all religions by illuminating their shared symbols and traditions, is not exempt from the mysteries surrounding the moon. H.P. Blavatsky stands as the sole originator of a comprehensive teaching on our satellite, one so profound that it could not have been the product of imagination alone. She says her teachers told her, and Theosophy plainly asserts, that the former body of the entity now called the Earth is the very moon in our sky. One of the mysteries which HBB claimed to reveal is that in a remote period when there was no Earth, the moon existed as an inhabited globe. Eventually it died and at once threw out into space all its energies, leaving nothing but the physical vehicle behind, which is what we see now as the moon. Those energies revolved and condensed the matter in space nearby and produced our Earth. The moon, its parent, so to speak, is now proceeding towards disintegration, but compelled to revolve around her child, the Earth. But what about the ancient and modern prevailing belief in the moon's bad influence? This belief, both ancient and modern, in the moon's malefic influence is not without foundation. According to HPB, this belief arises from the moon's true occult nature, a dead and deserted world, a corpse intimately bound to the earth. Because of this close relationship, it projects a stream of noxious emanations onto our globe, subtle but powerful astral influences. These emanations, she warns, can be harnessed by those with wicked intent and occult knowledge, becoming a tool for psychic and even physical harm. She further hints that the moon's mystery is far from fully revealed. She states that there are 6 occult doctrines or facts regarding the moon that remain untold, knowledge held back even in the secret doctrine, but reserved for more advanced initiates. This veil of secrecy suggests the moon plays a more complex and esoteric role in the spiritual economy of the earth than we can yet fully grasp. It would be idle to speculate on these mysteries, for it has ever been found that unless the great initiates speak, the general run of men can but modify, enlarge, or intertwine by their fancy those facts and doctrines of which they have heard. But as to the fate of the moon, HPB, speaking for those initiates, says plainly what is to become of our moon. Both Mercury and Venus are far older than the Earth, and before the Earth reaches her 7th round, her mother moon will have completely dissolved. Such is the case with the moons of other planets, or they are now in the process of disintegrating, as the case may be, since there are planets which have several moons, a mystery again which no great astronomer has solved. This brings us to a deeper mystery regarding the nature of moons in general. If the law of correspondence truly governs nature, then it would follow that the moon, viewed in Theosophy as the Earth's former body, must in time dissolve and pass away. Just as the Earth and humanity progress steadily in their evolutionary journey, so too should the lingering presence of the moon diminish. Its gradual fading and eventual disappearance would symbolize the forward movement of the Earth and its races toward higher states of being. She has said it is likely that before our 6th round is ended, it being the round relating to Buddhi as a vehicle of spirit, the body of the moon, which was the vehicle for prana and astral body, will have disappeared. Very probably one of the unrevealed mysteries has to do with the uses and purposes of the moon's matter. But whatever those mysteries are, the fate of our satellite is very clearly asserted. Now we'll examine the sun in both its spiritual and mundane aspects as described in Theosophy. Mr. Judge says in The Path that there is a true sun, of which the visible sun is just a reflection, and that in this true sun there is spiritual energy and help, just as our own beloved luminary, our spirit, contains the spring of our physical life and motion. It is useless to speculate on which of the many stars in the heavens may be the real sun, for a physical center of attraction for this system may only be a grade higher than ours, and still be the servant of a center still farther removed. Our own sun is, then, for us, the symbol of the true sun it reflects, and by meditating on the most excellent light of the true sun, we can gain help in our struggle to assist humanity. The physical sun belongs to the realm of physics, governing the life and health of the bodily world. But the true sun, the spiritual sun, radiates from within, corresponding to the higher self or spirit in man. While the visible orb of day sustains our physical being, it is this inner sun that illumines the soul. Just as we cultivate the soil to receive the sun's life-giving rays, so too should we prepare the inner ground of our being to receive the light of spirit. Our thoughts and aspirations should be turned toward this inner sun, the true source of wisdom, vitality, and inner awakening. And now some interesting facts come from Transactions of the Blavatsky Lodge, where some of HPB's pupils from her esoteric section asked pointed questions about the sun. It is asked, in what relation does the sun, the highest form of fire we can recognize, stand to fire as we know it? And the answer is that the sun, as on our plane, is not even solar fire. The sun we see gives nothing of itself because it is a reflection, a bundle of electromagnetic forces, one of the countless milliard knots of Fohat. Fohat is called the thread of primeval light, the ball of thread of Ariadne, indeed in this labyrinth of chaotic matter. This thread runs through the 7 planes, tying itself into knots. Every plane being septenary, there are thus 49 mystical and physical forces, larger knots forming stars, suns, and systems, the smaller planets, and so on. The next question, in what respect is the sun an illusion? And she answers, the electromagnetic knot of our sun is neither tangible nor dimensional, nor even as molecular as the electricity we know. The sun absorbs, psychizes, and vampirizes its subjects within its system. Further than this, it gives out nothing of itself. It is an absurdity, therefore, to say that the solar fires are being consumed and gradually extinguished. The sun has but one distinct function. It gives the impulse of life to all that breathes and lives under its light. The sun is the throbbing heart of the system, each throb being an impulse. But this heart is invisible. No astronomer will ever see it. That which is concealed in this heart, and that which we feel and see, its apparent flame and fires, to use a simile, are the nerves governing the muscles of the solar system, and nerves, moreover, outside of the body. This impulse is not mechanical, but a purely spiritual nervous impulse. Furthermore, she says in The Secret Doctrine that the sun is the heart of the solar system, and its brain is hidden behind the visible sun. From thence, sensation is radiated into every nerve center of the great body, and the waves of the life essence flow into each artery and vein. The planets are its limbs and pulses. But the sun was not always there. The absorption took place later on. The sun is older than the moon, perhaps in our system, but the moon is far older than the earth. The sun is older than any of its planets, though younger than the moon. Its rejection, referred to in The Secret Doctrine, means that when bodies or planets begin to form, helped by its rays, magnetic radiance or heat, and especially by its magnetic attraction, it had to be stopped. Otherwise, it would have swallowed all the younger bodies, as Saturn is fabled to have treated his progeny. He swallowed them. This does not mean that all the planets are thrown out from the sun, as modern science teaches, but simply that under the rays of the sun, they acquire their growth. The Vedic allegory of Aditi is very suggestive. Aditi is the ever equilibrizing Mother Nature on the purely spiritual and subjective plane, and it is for her to regulate the behavior of the sons born in her bosom. The next question asks, were all the planets in our solar system first comets and then suns? And she answers, they were not suns in our solar system or their present solar systems, but comets in space. All life began as wanderers over the face of the infinite cosmos. They detached themselves from the common storehouse of already prepared material, the Milky Way, which is nothing more or less than the quite developed world stuff, all the rest in space being the crude material, as yet invisible to us. Then, starting on their long journey, they first settled in life where conditions were prepared for them by Fohat, and gradually became suns. Then each sun, when its pralaya or period of rest arrived, was resolved into millions and millions of fragments. Each of these fragments moved to and fro in space, collecting fresh materials as it rolled on, like an avalanche, until it came to a stop through the laws of attraction and repulsion, and became a planet in our own as in other systems beyond our telescopes. The sun's fragments will become just such planets after the solar pralaya. It was a comet once upon a time in the beginning of Brahma's age. Then it came to its present position, whence it will burst asunder and its atoms will be whirled into space for eons and eons like all the other comets and meteors, until each, guided by karma, is caught in the vortex of the two forces, attraction and repulsion, and fixed in some higher and better system. Thus, the sun will live in its children, as a portion of the parents live in their offspring. When that day comes, the semblance or reflection of the sun which we see will first fall off like a veil from the face of the true sun. No mortal will see it, for no mortal eye could bear its radiance. Were this veil once removed for even a second, all the planets of its system would be instantaneously reduced to ashes, as the 60,000 of King Sagara's sons were destroyed by a glance of Kapila's eye. Question: if the Milky Way is a manifestation of this world stuff, how is it that is not seen over the whole of the sky? She answers, why should it not be the more contracted and therefore its condensed part which alone is seen? This forms into knots and passes through the sun stage, the cometary and planetary stages until it finally becomes a dead body or a moon. There are also various kinds of suns. The sun of the solar system is a reflection. At the end of the solar manvantara, it will begin to get less and less radiant, giving less and less heat, owing to a change in the real sun, of which the visible sun is a reflection. After the solar pralaya, the present sun will, in a future manvantara, become a cometary body, but certainly not during the life of our little planetary chain. The argument drawn from spectrum star analysis, she maintains, is not solid because no account is taken of the passage of light through cosmic dust. This does not mean to say that there is no real difference in the spectra of stars, but that the proclaimed presence of iron or sodium in any particular star may be owing to the modification of the rays of such a star by the cosmic dust with which the Earth is surrounded. In conclusion, both the Earth and the other planets in our solar system are sevenfold beings, each composed of multiple planes of existence. What we perceive outwardly is shaped by the level of consciousness we currently occupy. The beings inhabiting other planets have forms suited to their own environments and planes. So the absence of visible life does not mean that life and evolution are not actively unfolding there, only that they do so in different states and expressions. Details concerning the inner natures of these planetary beings belong to the highest levels of esoteric initiation, and thus are not openly revealed to the uninitiated. There are sacred mysteries we may one day understand more fully as our inner vision grows clearer. Until then, we can reflect and infer using the laws of correspondence and analogy. We are told that the moon is a corpse, the former body of the earth. Like the discarded principles of a human being after death, it is slowly disintegrating. Though it no longer hosts life, its lingering astral influences can be harnessed by those with occult knowledge for good or ill. Left alone, they are harmless, but in the hands of those who misuse them, they can be directed towards destructive ends. As for the sun, what we see with our eyes is but its physical vehicle, a reflection of a greater spiritual sun that dwells behind it. That true sun shines not only through the heavens, but within each of us. It is to that inner sun, the radiant source of life, light, and wisdom, that we should turn. By preparing the inner ground of our heart and mind, we become receptive to its influence, just as the earth opens itself to the nourishing rays of the physical sun. Okay, and that concludes the talk portion, and we'll open it up for questions or comments.
Thanks, Kathy. Really comprehensive talk, especially on the esoteric side of the Earth and globe chains. Question: so in your in slide 3, you had 7 rounds, and below that was the globes. So you have the first 4 globes on a descending arc, and then the next 4 on an ascending arc. Can you maybe expand a little more on that? Does it mean that as we move from different globes, in upward ascending arc, assuming that the Earth globe still be around for more advanced as we advance spiritually. Would that be a assumption, or does the globe disappear as we go from round to round?
It seems from the Theosophical literature I read that as we progress to the next phase of our evolution, to perfecting the next principle on the next round, that will occupy the next globe, and that it's not in a different place because they interpenetrate each other, but the matter will be different, because as we ascend towards spirit, matter becomes less pronounced and the spiritual influence becomes more pronounced. So the matter of this globe as we know it will be different. She doesn't say exactly in what ways and how, but that we will gradually transfer to humanity moves not all together, but in a regular stream from one globe to the next. So the more advanced would occupy it first, followed by everything else. And as we raise up the matter, the material, essentially the beings, other beings of our globe, as was said, the physical part becomes more ethereal. So those forms will be evolving along with us. So our bodies won't be composed of such dense matter as we experience them now too.
I have a question regarding the sun, and thank you for the talk. The planets and the moon, all the moons, are sevenfold. Isn't the sun also supposed to be sevenfold, like everything in nature is?
Yeah, I don't know if she exactly says that, but over and over that it's said that to rely on the law of analogy and correspondence when thinking about the other planets and globes. So it would stand to reason that it has 7 principles as well.
Okay.
But yeah, even the other planets are beyond our, that knowledge is esoteric and not given out. So yeah, the sun is even perhaps along those lines, maybe even more, more of a secret. She gives us as much as we can work with and understand.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, the information about the sun is really interesting. We know it gives light and it nourishes everything on our planet, but she also says that the true sun is not, it's not like the visible sun. The visible sun is just a reflection of it. And it can't be revealed to us because we are not prepared for the spiritual brilliance of it.
But can't we say the same about the other planets? Because we're seeing the 4th round, the physical aspect of the other planets. So what we're seeing isn't even the physical plane of the sun?
Yeah, it seems like it would be the 4th round, reflection. Or, well, to us, she does say that, what we see with our physical eyes is going to be based on our level of spiritual development. So what we see of the sun, maybe if we were on the 6th round or the 7th round, the sun would look different. because we would be using our higher senses, sixth and seventh round senses that we perfect during those rounds. We'd be perceiving it with that added information.
So question, do all the 7 globes stay intact till the end of a Manvantara, or once the egos in mass have moved on completely from one globe to the next globe, does the other globe disintegrate?
All the globes are united in one mass.
Right, yeah.
And they interpenetrate each other. So the location is not one that we can pinpoint physically, but if we were to be able to raise our consciousness, there are perhaps the most advanced beginning to occupy it. We don't know. She doesn't say that, but using the correspondence and analogy. Yeah, they're not identical in substance, yet they are united in one mass, and that's the difficulty with explaining it, and why the masters would say that they're not in consubstantiality but in coordination.
So that would imply that any given point in time, every globe has occupants, right, depending on the spiritual advancement. Would that be a reasonable assumption?
Yes, because the energies from one globe proceed gradually to the next globe, it takes time for the previous one to disintegrate or phase out. The lowest, slowest energies have yet to transfer to that next plane. So what we see are the remnants of those globes. It could be that there are beings on them suited to that environment, but just because we can't see them in the form that we're accustomed to, our form, does not mean that there's not life there. So
just a comment. Astronomers say that there is more matter than the visible matter. I don't know how do they get to that conclusion, but would that be going into the direction of what we're discussing right now, that the physical universe, we see that there's more to that, because we're seeing just one globe, and we're seeing other planets and their moons and satellites that are in our globe. And that unaccounted matter that the astronomers seem to believe in would be corresponding to the other globes that we cannot see with the naked eye or instruments.
yes, that could be the case, as well as it could be the world stuff that she talked about that condenses to the point where we can see it, but there's a lot that is uncondensed, and it's hasn't tied itself into the knots, she calls them, that represent the sun stage or the comet stage or the planetary stage. But physics and astronomers, I think, have reached this conclusion through mathematics and different types of analysis, quantum and so forth, that there has to be more matter in the universe than we can actually see. And as we know, by taking the full electromagnetic spectrum, a visible light is just the tiniest little sliver of it. So astronomers have been looking for matter and signs of life using gamma rays, X-rays, whatever that they can, send out a signal and get information back. But based on the mathematics of it And it corresponds with what HPV says, that there is this world stuff that we can't see, but is in a state ready to be condensed into planets and so forth, which is really interesting. If our consciousness was at a higher plane, we can assume that we might be able to perceive it, maybe not see it, quote unquote, but perceive it.
A very general question: has there been any theosophically corresponding, comment or writing on what is truly a black hole? We talk about physicists talk about the imploding stars. Is there anything that you know of that has been explained in the Secret Doctrine or elsewhere?
I'm not sure. I think I didn't cover that in this one. I think it is possible that there might be some mention of it. Let me see if I can find something real quick. I should have thought to cover that.
No, that's okay. Because I keep hearing about, the imploding stars, the black hole, and Einstein's theory of relativity, right? I always wondered if there's something in the theosophical literature that we can kind of glean off.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of news recently about black holes, that they may or may not correspond with how Einstein predicted them. Yeah. But I think I'd have to go back and look. I'm not finding anything right at the moment.
Sure.
I think she does mention them in the Secret Doctrine. That might be another.
The Laia centers are not the black holes, right? The Laia centers are more like a origination of stuff or material. I don't recall very well.
I don't recall it either. I don't. Sorry, I don't know if you.
No, I've heard of it, but I don't fully recall it. Oh, just quick one more question. So in your fourth or fifth slide, you had the Earth chain and the lunar chain, right? So even if you look at Moon right now, which let's say call it dead planet, does it still have all its 7 globes intact at this point, or have they all but disintegrated? Do we know that?
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Yeah. So I'm trying, the figure on the Earth chain and the lunar chain.
Oh, right.
Each of those had 7 globes, A to G. Does the Moon at this point in time still have those globes, all the 7 globes, still intact?
Oh,
yeah.
It's well, the idea is that the energies go from globe to globe.
Yes.
So since we're on the 4th round, we see the component 4th round globe of the Moon, and it hasn't completely dissipated yet. So we can assume that it is still disintegrating. But because the whole chain of the Moon completed, the life wave or the energy on it has completed. Okay. And like we know about shells and corpses in theosophical literature in relation to the human body, we can, by analogy and correspondence, infer that it's a similar case with the body of the planet, the Moon. And that's why she says there are like astral influences still coming off it. So there is still matter there that represents some life form. It's not that it's devoid of life. There are still atoms in some stage of development representing the dead planet that we see. Minerals, it would seem, in the mineral stage. So she doesn't go into super fine detail about that, but there's no, the life wave of conscious life gaining experience has finished there, been transferred to the earth. And it's interesting that diagram doesn't show, you know, it completes the moon and then the earth, the energies from the moon, from each globe, transfer the energies to each earth globe that corresponds. So there's still some, as she said, 6 mysteries related to the moon that pertain to higher initiation that aren't given out.
So at this point, we are on globe D, so our senses can perceive globe D of this Earth, and what we're perceiving in the moon is also the globe D of the moon. Is that correct?
Yes, and all the other planets we see are fourth.
Yeah.
So even though like Saturn is a gas giant, it still is the 4th plane globe for Saturn. And it may or may not have life on it, suited to that environment. She doesn't indicate what rounds any of the other planets are in, but she does say using that correspondence and analogy may help us infer to some degree what's going on there. But it does sound like there are influences from the other planets, and perhaps their position in relation to the sun, their orbit to the sun, is significant for the beings on those chains. Like, why are we the 4th planet out? She does say there may be an invisible planet, an intra-mercurial planet that is in obscuration at this time. So we may not be exactly the 4th planet, out from the sun. That's only on globe D that we can see. There might be other planets in obscuration, which is interesting to think about. But that she has talked about Venus being like a beneficent influence, more advanced than the beings on this planet. That it's like a higher chain, so to speak. So it seems that once we've completed life on this globe, we will, you know, move on to another globe at a higher higher development. That it doesn't jump. There are these like gradual stages, and it seems that they are based on karma, and that ultimately karma is what attracts the atoms together to form the, you know, the world stuff and the knots of Fohat that become planets and centers where we can have life and experience. So it is really kind of mind-blowing to think about it.
One final question. So for each round, the egos has to go through all the 7 globes. Is that what's taught in Theosophy?
As
you progress from round to round, 4th to 5th to 6th, right? As those principles awaken within us.
Yes, because there's 7 principles, so 7 times 7 essentially.
Got it,
The rounds are like a great revolution, but the races go through development during the rounds, and there are 7 races. So they're not like all necessarily present at the same time. They develop each principle as each race, you know, comes to its full flowering. And then it declines, and the more advanced egos move on into the next race body, into the next perfecting each principle.
Mhm.
It makes it sound almost like busy. There's like so much going on, actually. Whereas we look out and see, you know, blank void, it's actually, there's actually matter preparing to be used. And it's actually, like the voice says, the fullness of the seeming void. And there's a lot of activity going on that we can't see, but nonetheless. Okay, I guess we'll end it there.
Thank you, Kathy. Excellent
you're-
talk. Wonderful talk.
And then we'll take a break and return for our study on the Book of Images.
Sounds good. We'll see you soon.
Okay.